The blade missed the Duke's throat by less than an inch. It was a rainy Tuesday in London. Lord Sebastian Vane, the Duke of Alva, was cornered in a blind alley behind the Opera House. 3 men, hired blades by the look of them, had him pressed against the wet brick. Sebastian was a good swordsman, but he was drunk and he was outnumbered. He closed his eyes, waiting for the cold bite of steel. It never came. Instead, there was a blur of motion. A shadow dropped from the roof above. It landed between Sebastian and his attackers with the silence of a cat. The shadow was small, slight, dressed in the simple black livery of a servant, but it moved with a speed that defied physics. The first assassin lunged. The shadow sidestepped, grabbed the man's wrist and snapped it with a sickening crunch. The second man swung a heavy cudgel. The shadow ducked, sweeping the man's legs out from under him before delivering a precise knockout kick to the temple. The third man, the leader, hesitated. He looked at the small figure standing over his fallen comrades. "Who are you?" the assassin hissed. The figure stepped into the gaslight. It was a boy, or rather, a young man. He couldn't have been more than 20. He had delicate features, large dark eyes, and a cap pulled low over his forehead. "I am the valet," the boy said. His voice was soft, melodic, but cold as ice. "And you have dirtied his Grace's coat?" The assassin laughed. "A valet?" He lunged. The valet didn't draw a weapon. He didn't need to. He caught the assassin's arm, twisted his body, and used the man's own momentum to throw him face first into the brick wall. The assassin slumped to the ground, unconscious. Silence returned to the alley. Sebastian slid down the wall, clutching his side where he had been grazed. He stared at his saviour. Who are you?" Sebastian gasped. The boy straightened his coat. He walked over to Sebastian and offered a hand. The hand was small, but the grip was iron. "My name is Julian, Your Grace," the boy said. "I was hired this morning by your steward. I believe I am to be your new personal attendant." Sebastian looked at the carnage in the alley. 3 men incapacitated in 10 seconds by a servant the size of a girl. "Remind me," Sebastian muttered, accepting the hand to give the steward a raise. For the next month, Julian became the most indispensable person in Sebastian's life, and the most confusing. Julian was perfect. He polished boots until they looked like mirrors. He tied cravats with an artist's touch. He anticipated Sebastian's needs before Sebastian even knew them. A glass of water would appear the moment he was thirsty. A fresh quill would be on the desk the moment the ink ran dry. But there were oddities. Julian never bathed with the other servants. He slept in the smallest closet off the Duke's bedroom and locked the door from the inside. He never took off his shirt even when labouring in the heat. And then there was the fencing. One afternoon, Sebastian was practising in the courtyard with his fencing master, a heavy-set Frenchman named Pierre. Pierre was slow. Sebastian was bored. Julian stood on the sidelines holding a towel. He was watching with a critical eye. "Something to say, Julian?" Sebastian asked, pausing to wipe his brow. Julian hesitated. "Your footwork, Your Grace. It is heavy. You overextend on the lunge. It leaves your left flank exposed." Pierre bristled. "The boy is a servant. What does he know of the blade?" Sebastian smiled. A wicked idea formed. "Put down the towel, Julian," Sebastian ordered. "Pick up a foil." Julian went pale. "Your Grace, I cannot. It is improper. I command it. Show me my mistake." Reluctantly, Julian picked up a practice sword. It looked too heavy for his slender wrist. Sebastian assumed his stance. "Ready?" Julian didn't take a stance. He just stood there, looking bored. Sebastian lunged. It was a fast attack designed to disarm. Julian didn't parry. He simply pivoted. He spun inside Sebastian's guard, the tip of his foil tapping gently against Sebastian's chest. "Dead," Julian whispered. Sebastian blinked. Luck, he thought. He He tried again, a series of complex feints. Julian blocked them all with minimal movement, his wrist flicking like a viper. Tap, 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 3 hits to Sebastian's heart. The courtyard went silent. Pierre dropped his sword in shock. Sebastian stared at his valet. He was panting, sweating. Julian hadn't even broken a sweat. "Where did you learn that?" Sebastian demanded. "That is not English steel. That is the Florentine style. My father," Julian said quickly, lowering his eyes. "He was a soldier. In Italy, he taught me." Sebastian stepped closer. He grabbed Julian's chin, forcing him to look up. He studied the boy's face. The skin was smooth, poreless. The eyelashes were impossibly long. "You are too pretty to be a soldier's son, Julian," Sebastian murmured. For a second, panic flared in Julian's dark eyes. He pulled away. "I have duties, Your Grace. Your bath needs drawing." He fled the courtyard. Sebastian watched him go. He felt a strange tightening in his chest, a fascination. He told himself it was just curiosity about the boy's skills, but deep down he knew it was something else. He found himself watching Julian pour wine, mesmerizing by the grace of his fingers. He found himself inventing reasons to call Julian into his room at night. "Am I losing my mind?" Sebastian wondered. "I am the Duke of Alva. I court countesses. Why can I not stop looking at my valet?" The breaking point came with the wound. 2 weeks later the assassins returned. This time they attacked the carriage on the road to Dover. It was an ambush, a tree across the road, musket fire. Sebastian fought bravely, but a bullet caught him in the shoulder. He went down. Julian was there instantly. He didn't just fight, he killed. He used a dagger with terrifying efficiency, dispatching the key attackers while shielding Sebastian's body with his own. When the silence fell, Julian dragged Sebastian into the woods, away from the road. He found a small hunting cabin and kicked the door in. He laid Sebastian on the table. "We must get the bullet out," Julian said. His voice was shaking, but his hands were steady. He tore open Sebastian's shirt. He heated the dagger in the fire. "Do it!" Sebastian gritted out through the pain. Julian worked. He dug the bullet out, cauterized the wound, and bandaged it with strips of his own shirt. Sebastian watched him through the haze of pain. He saw Julian's face close to his. He saw a bead of sweat roll down Julian's neck, and he smelled it. Under the scent of blood and gunpowder, there was another scent, faint, hidden, but unmistakable. Jasmine and vanilla. It was the scent of a woman. Sebastian reached up with his good hand. He grabbed Julian's wrist. "Who are you?" Sebastian whispered. Julian froze. "I am Julian, Your Grace." "No," Sebastian said. "You smell like a garden. You fight like a demon. And you have no Adam's apple." He reached for Julian's collar. "Don't!" Julian gasped, pulling back. "Please!" Sebastian didn't let go. He pulled the collar open. The skin of Julian's neck was smooth. There was no apple. And below that, the curve of the chest was bound tight with linen bandages, but the outline was undeniable. Sebastian stared. The world tilted on its axis. "You're a woman," he breathed. Julian, no, she, closed her eyes. Defeated, yes. "Why?" Sebastian asked, his mind racing. "Why the disguise? Why the service?" She opened her eyes. They were violet in the firelight. "Because if I wear a dress, I am dead," she whispered. "My name is Isabella, Princess Isabella of Spain." Sebastian forgot his pain. The Princess Isabella? The one who had vanished during the coup in Madrid 6 months ago? The one with a bounty of 10,000 gold pieces on her head? "My uncle killed my father," Isabella said, her voice hollow. "He seized the throne. He wants to marry me to legitimize his claim, or kill me. He doesn't care which. I fled. I cut my hair. I hid in the one place no one looks at a woman twice, in the shadow of a man." She looked at him terrified. "Are you going to turn me in? The bounty is a fortune." Sebastian looked at the boy who had saved his life twice. He looked at the bandages she had wrapped with such care. He remembered the way his heart raced when she entered the room. He had thought he was mad. He wasn't mad. His soul had recognized her before his eyes did. He reached up and touched her cheek. A fortune, he mused. 10,000 gold pieces. Isabella flinched. It is a good price, Sebastian said softly. But I think good help is harder to find. He smiled. You are a terrible valet, Julian. You used too much starch on my collars last week. Isabella blinked, then she laughed, a choked, watery sound. I will try to do better, Your Grace. From that moment, everything changed. They went back to the manor, but the dynamic had shifted. To the world, he was the Duke, and she was the servant. But behind closed doors, they were partners. Sebastian taught her English politics. She taught him Spanish strategy. They ate dinner together in his chambers, laughing, arguing, sharing a bottle of wine. Sebastian fell in love. Hard. He loved her strength. He loved the way she stripped a pistol in 10 seconds. He loved the way she looked in his oversized shirts when she finally unbound her chest at night. But he knew it couldn't last. The spies were everywhere. The climax came at the royal ball. The King of England was hosting a masquerade. Every peer was required to attend, including Sebastian. I cannot go, Isabella said, pacing the room. My uncle's spies will be there. They will recognize me. You will go, Sebastian said, because I need a second. A second? I have received a threat, Sebastian lied smoothly. I need my best swordsman by my side, but Julian cannot come to a ball. He opened a wardrobe. Inside hung a dress. It was magnificent. Emerald green silk, cut low, with a mask of peacock feathers. Tonight, Sebastian said, you are not Julian. You are my cousin from the country, Lady Isabella. She stared at the dress. I haven't worn silk in a year. I won't know how to move. You move like a warrior, Sebastian said. Just try not to break anyone's arm. They arrived at the ball. Isabella was stunning. The court stopped to stare. Sebastian felt a fierce, possessive pride as she took his arm. They danced. For the first time he held her, not as a servant, but as a woman. You are trembling, Sebastian whispered. I am waiting for the attack, she murmured, scanning the room. It came sooner than she expected. During the waltz, a man bumped into them. He was wearing a red mask. He grabbed Isabella's arm. Found you, little bird, a voice hissed in Spanish. Isabella froze. It was Captain Garcia, her uncle's headhunter. Sebastian didn't hesitate. He punched Garcia in the face. The ballroom erupted in screams. Garcia drew a dagger. 4 other men in red masks appeared from the crowd surrounding them. Sebastian drew his sword. Get behind me, he shouted to Isabella. No, she said. She reached down. She ripped the skirt of her expensive emerald dress, tearing it to her knees to free her legs. She grabbed a sword from a stunned guard nearby. She stepped up beside Sebastian, back to back. The Florentine defence? She asked, grinning. I hate the Florentine defence, Sebastian groaned. They fought. It was a dance of death amidst the crystal chandeliers. Sebastian was power. Isabella was speed. They moved as one organism, parrying, striking, spinning. The courtiers shrieked and fainted. The king watched from the balcony, open-mouthed. They dropped 3 men, but Garcia was fast. He lunged for Sebastian's unprotected back. Sebastian! Isabella screamed. She threw herself in front of him. The dagger slashed her arm. Blood sprayed onto the green silk. Isabella fell. Sebastian roared. He drove his sword through Garcia's chest, pinning him to the wall. He dropped his weapon and fell to his knees beside Isabella. Bella! He cried, pressing his hands to the wound. She looked up at him, pale. I ruined the dress, she whispered. You will dock my wages. Sebastian laughed, a sob catching in his throat. I will buy you 1,000 dresses. Just stay awake." The king descended from the balcony. The royal guards surrounded them. "What is the meaning of this?" the king demanded. "Who is this woman?" Sebastian looked at the king. He looked at the woman bleeding in his arms. The valet, the warrior, the love of his life. He could lie. He could say she was his cousin. He could protect her identity. But he was done hiding. He stood up, pulling Isabella with him. He supported her weight. "Your Majesty," Sebastian announced, his voice ringing through the silent hall, "may I present Her Royal Highness, Princess Isabella of Spain, the rightful queen, and my future wife." The room gasped. Isabella looked at him. "Wife?" "If you will have me," Sebastian whispered. "I know I am only a duke. It is a step down for a queen." Isabella looked at the man who had fought for her, who had seen her as a boy and loved her, and seen her as a queen and loved her still. "I don't want a king," she said, echoing his words from the alley. "I want a partner." She kissed him. There was blood on her arm and sweat on his brow, but it was the most perfect moment the court had ever seen. The King of England granted her asylum. With Sebastian's army and his gold, they eventually took back her throne. But Isabella never ruled from Spain. She abdicated in favour of her younger sister. She preferred England. She preferred the rain, and she preferred the manor house where the Duke and Duchess would often be found in the courtyard, fencing. And every time the Duke travelled, he never hired a valet. He said he couldn't find one who met his standards. After all, once you have been served by a queen, everything else is a disappointment. It's a story about seeing the person beneath the uniform. Sebastian fell in love with a soul, not a gender or a title. He loved Julian as much as he loved Isabella, because they were the same fierce spirit. And it brings us to a question for the modern age. We present polished versions of ourselves to the world. Masks, costumes, filters. But true love sees the soldier beneath the silk. If you were in Sebastian's shoes, would you have figured it out sooner? Or would the valet disguise have fooled you too? If you enjoyed this duel of hearts, slash that like button. It helps us fight the algorithm. And if you want to join a channel that believes women can save the men for a change, hit subscribe. We are open to everyone, no matter what disguise you're wearing. Until next time, keep your guard up.